Now, the transfer window is open. Woohoo! No, why am I clapping? Every club is looking for that big Gaz moment. Get a classy player for a cheap price. I mean, Big Gaz he's been central throughout this season. Now, with only 10 weeks to go until the transfer window closes, what player does each club need to get themselves out of a rut? We're going to be looking at the remaining 17 teams bidding farewell to Watford, Bournemouth and Norwich. Cheerio, cheerio, cheerio. If you are new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. And let's get straight into this. Arsenal. Classic Arsenal. They've been dubbed the banter boys throughout this season, finishing 8th, sending their fans into delirium. I mean, even I would take a massive sledgehammer and absolutely knock apart that Arsenal team, probably only leaving Aubameyang and Leno in place. I mean, they've got so much to fix. At the minute, they're trying to bid for Thomas Partey, but the board won't even pay the 40 million asking price that Atletico are looking for. So that being said, we've got to consider that kind of price tag to what player Arsenal will be willing to buy. Realistically, we're looking at the defence for Arsenal. I mean, I'm shocked to say this stat, and you're probably shocked to hear it, that David Luiz, yes, David Luiz, not after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I mean, I could keep going on with the amount of blunders this guy's had throughout the season, is apparently the statistically best defender at Arsenal. No words. But what Arsenal need to do is they need to build a wall in front of Leno, not just a small piece of polystyrene. So that being said, they could look to someone like Koulibaly, but if they're not willing to pay the money for Thomas Partey, then they won't be willing to pay the money for someone like Koulibaly. So they could look to someone like Upamenko for Leipzig, who's proven that he can play on the big stage, playing for Leipzig against the likes of Bayern, and also playing on a Champions League stage as well. He could be a very good young option to add to that Arsenal defence and really shore them up. Aston Villa. Now, after the Claret and Blue managed to somehow scrape their way out of relegation, Jack Grealish is sure to finally pull up them socks and leave for the likes of Manchester United or another bigger club. So that being said, Aston Villa are really going to need to look towards their attack to bolster up their attack in the coming transfer window. The likes of Wesley and Samatta just have really been underwhelming. So that being said, who can they look at? Well, if they want someone young, a bit of spark, they can look at Eberici Eze, and probably absolutely butchered that. He scored 4 goals and assisted 3 in 42 games for QPR. And he looks like a very good talent. Those stats aren't the best, so if Aston Villa want to stay up next season, they probably would need some guaranteed goals. And they can look no further than the likes of Watford's recently relegated Troy Deeney, who would definitely bring goals to any side that you put him into. Brighton and Hove Albion under Graham Potter have been a much improved side. Their possession and shots on target stats have increased massively under Potter, and they actually look to play some really nice football. Their defence and midfield have been reasonably solid throughout the season, with Aaron Moy really showing that he has a Premier League class about him, and Lamptey at right back, along with Duffy and Duncan pairing at the back. Matt Ryan in goal, they've been incredibly solid throughout the season. However, going forward, they're lacking a spark. Aaron Connolly's done okay this season. He's a nice, bright, young player. However, Neil Pite has been their source, their go-to throughout the season, and he's really the only attacker that's kind of shone. So that being said, who should Brighton look at to bring in? Well, the likes of Bournemouth have taken down plenty of good attackers with them. They could bring in Stanislas, King, Wilson. Any one of those attackers would really help bring a bit of pace and just a more goal-scoring threat into that Brighton side. They could also look to bring in Ryan Fraser, who is now on a free after he did not want to sign his contract with Bournemouth at the end of last season. So Brighton could definitely bring in one of these kind of Bournemouth options who have proven that they can do it in the Premier League. Obviously, they got relegated, but someone like Stanislas, who really came on towards the end of Bournemouth's season, I think could really fit into Graham Potter's kind of esque style of play, that possession, that build-up. I think he would be a very good option. Burnley, one of the tougher teams in the league, have an absolutely incredible defence on the hard man, Sean Dyche. Their defence, nothing to change them. Their midfield has been doing okay throughout the season. Their attack, the likes of Ashley Barnes, Jay Rodriguez really coming on towards the end of the season, and Chris Wood always provide the goals. And young, bright English talent, Dwight McNeil, really playing very well. However, he's not turning good performances into goals and assists. So, that being said, Burnley could really look to add a little bit more spark to their attack, a little bit more pace, a little bit more flair, but also some goals as well. Then they would need to look no further than Brentford's Ollie Watkins, scoring 10 and assisting 6 in 42 games for Brentford in the Championship this season. He has been a shining light for Brentford throughout the season and could very much improve Burnley's attack. Chelsea look very promising for this coming season. The likes of Timo Werner, Hakim Ziyech joining the side. Their defence is shoring up a little bit, with Rudiger coming back from injury and looking very solid. Their only real woe is their goalkeeper, flapping around like an eagle. The most expensive player, or the most expensive goalkeeper for 75 million. Just flapping his arms around. And they should look no further than the Eagles themselves. Crystal Palace's Vicente Guaita, Kepa Arrizabalaga's Spanish compatriot, has had an incredible season for Crystal Palace throughout the year, picking up many saves and basically keeping Crystal Palace in so many games, and they'd be able to get him for a much cheaper price than they bought Kepa Arrizabalaga. As Guaita is going very much under the radar for Crystal Palace and could really shore up that Chelsea defence and make them a very unstoppable force. Moving on to the Eagles themselves, and I mean, they have been woeful in front of goal. Like a dog on ice, they've been slip and sliding all over the gaff. I mean, Ben Teke, the woes go on and on for him. They really need to bring in a seasoned striker. They should look no further than Celtic's Odsonne Edouard. They've been linked with him. He scored 22 goals and assisted 7 in 27 games. Those are the kind of stats that Crystal Palace fans are crying out for, and they really need to shore up that attack if they're going to stay in the league, especially with the likes of Wilfried Zaha very likely to leave in this summer transfer window. Moving on to Everton now, and they looked like they were a much rejuvenated side under Carlo Ancelotti before the break, the pandemic as it were, with DCL really going forward and scoring plenty of goals. Potentially, Carlo Ancelotti was saying to be the best striker in the league. I mean, that is definitely up for debate. Richarlison really coming through and shining. Iwobi just not really doing much. Same with Moise Kean. Their buys last year really were quite woeful. It could be said that under Carlo Ancelotti, the defence, the likes of Mina and Kean, given a bit of time, will shine, and I think that they will. Gomez in the midfield had that horrific injury and has recovered for that, so that's not really a place they need to look at, sort of bolstering up or improving. Their attack is definitely something they need to look to, and as said previously, Zaha is out there wanting to leave, and it will be a perfect buy for Everton. Get him on that left side. The left side with Zaha, the right side with Richarlison. Teams wouldn't really know how to set up because they couldn't really focus on either player too much. Whip that ball into DCL, who could definitely score a lot of goals if he has that level of supply from the left and right wing. Wilfried Zaha, a very good player to buy for Everton FC. Leicester City have had an incredible campaign this year. Unfortunately for them, just bottling the top 4 slots after having what was, I think, a 14-point lead. They'll be gutted not to get Champions League, but they're in the Europa League. With European football, they'll be able to attract a lot more players. Their squad looks very good. They have decent depth, they have a good midfield, they have a very good defence, and the left and right back, they actually have a very, very good cover. Up front, however, Jamie Vardy, as good as he has been, has only most likely got 1 or 2 seasons left in him. At the age of 33, how he still has that pace is absolutely incredible. So they really should be looking to bring in someone long-term to replace Jamie Vardy. Even if they don't start immediately in place of him, in the next few years, Jamie Vardy's pace will definitely dwindle. And they should look no further than Borussia Mönchengladbach's Alassane Plea. I watched the Bundesliga when it returned before the Premier League, and Plea looked great for Mönchengladbach. They've had an incredible season in the Bundesliga, and at the age of 27, really could be a player who could bolster that Leicester City attack. Liverpool, the champions of this season's Premier League. What an insane season they have had. Their defence has been solid, their attack has been ferocious, their midfield has been tenacious. And, well, you'd argue, how can you improve that team? Well, the man up front, Bobby Firmino, has been slacking of late. He recently ended a 17-game goalless streak. So why not go all out on the attack and get Kylian Mbappe up there? Why not? There's not too much to improve in that Liverpool team, so why not become one of the best teams in the world? There is talk of a potential swap move with Mane. However, if they had Mane, Mbappe and Salah up front, I mean, those Liverpool fans, their mouths would be watering, they'd be drooling. Manchester City. Now, there's one big area that they need to improve on, and that is in the defence. They need a centre-back. They have recently put in a bid for Nathan Ake for £41 million, which I believe has been accepted. So if they do push that over the line, Ake could be a great introduction into that side. Whether he will actually be that much better than the likes of Otamendi, Stones, it will beg to be seen. But yeah, I was going to make this video, going to suggest that they should get a centre-back, and they seem to have beaten me to the point. Otherwise, wouldn't really say that Manchester City really need to improve in anywhere else in the park. They have the attackers, they have the left-backs, the right-backs, the goalkeeper. If they get Nathan Ake in there, their defence, hopefully for them, will be very solid. You could argue that they need someone a bit better than Ake. The likes of Soyuncu could definitely improve their defence much more than I think Ake probably could. But yeah, a centre-back, much needed for Manchester City, and they look like they're on the way to getting there. Manchester United have been incredible under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after the return to football, after the break that we did have, mainly due to Bruno Fernandes, who's come in and just been an absolute magician in that central attacking midfielder role. Hopefully for them, they can get the likes of Sancho across the line. That really is their main target. They could also do with bolstering up the defence a little bit, maybe adding in another central defender alongside Harry Maguire. But Sancho being the main target for them. If they get Sancho, their team would be monstrous. Newcastle United have been pretty sturdy under Steve Bruce this season. They're really still looking for a main man up front, spending 30 million on Joelinton, and he hasn't really been paying off for what they really hoped he was going to be. Newcastle are potentially getting this massive new takeover deal, and if this comes into fruition, they could have a lot of money to spend. They've been linked with some massive players like Coutinho, and I mean even Harry Kane, Mbappe. I think bit far-fetched, but you never know with that kind of money. And why not? I've seen them linked and heavily linked with the likes of James Rodriguez, and he would be an incredible signing for Newcastle. Hopefully they can push that one over the line. James Rodriguez would massively improve that Newcastle team. I kind of hope that they do get that one over the line. But at the same time, you never know. If they do get all this money, it could just be another team that's pushing for Champions League places and really pushing the rest of the league down. But Newcastle United, if they can afford it, go for James Rodriguez. If they can't, then they probably need someone like the Crystal Palace target, Odsonne Edouard. Sheffield United, what a season the Blades have had under Chris Wilder. They've been slicing everyone apart. Their defence has been incredibly solid throughout the season, playing that kind of 3-5 at the back, overlapping centre-backs. They've been incredible. But for them, they could really do with some attacking reinforcements. As good as Mousset and McBurney have been, McGoldrick picking up his first goal the other week with actually scoring a brace in a Premier League game. They've been good throughout the season, however, they could definitely do with a bit more attacking prowess, and they should look no further than Borussia Mönchengladbach's Bolo, who's had a very good season at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Could add a little more bit more pace. He's a kind of more he's a bigger guy. He's more target man-esque, like they like at Sheffield United. McBurney, McGoldrick, even Mousset are more kind of target men. Mousset's got a bit of pace, and then Bolo could encapsulate both of that. He's strong and he's quick and can really reinforce that Sheffield United attack to push them up the leaderboard next season and have an even better campaign than they did this year. Southampton, they've had a bit of an up and down season this year, not looking too good for this from the start, and then Danny Ings really pulling through, almost getting the golden boot with 22 goals in the end. I mean, what a player he has been throughout the season, picking up plenty of goals, but really carrying that Southampton attack. Che Adams towards the end of the season playing okay, however he's been underwhelming, along with the likes of Djenepo and Shane Long likely to leave, also being underwhelming. Southampton really could do with bolstering that attack, and they should look no further than Werder Bremen's Rashica. I managed to see him play a bit when the Bundesliga came back before the Premier League, and he really carries that Werder Bremen team. He looks very good on the ball, has good decision making, and can definitely bolster up that Southampton attack. Spurs, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I mean, they did manage to just scrape Europa League, with Mourinho celebrating as if he won the Champions League final or something. They got Europa League in the end. That means they'll hopefully for them be able to attract a few more players. Their attack is looking actually pretty dangerous at the minute. Harry Kane on top form towards the end of the season. Son is a classy player. They brought in the likes of Moira, the likes of Bergman, Dele Alli. I mean, he's not even really getting a shout at the minute, but the fact that he's on the bench kind of shows how good Spurs' attack is at the minute. Their midfield is the place really they could do with bolstering. Obviously the defence needs a bit of work as well, but if they could get a midfielder in alongside the likes of Sissoko, Ndombele has been a bit woeful of late. The likes of Højbjerg from Southampton could massively improve that team. They've been linked with him, and if they can get that move over the line, the creativity of that midfield would go up 2, 3, 4-fold with Højbjerg in there. Harry Kane really looking for a bit more supply from those players deeper in the midfield. We kind of see him dropping back a lot into the midfield in some of their games to kind of pick up the ball to take it forward. If they have a player in there like Højbjerg who can ping a pass up to Harry Kane, then we'll be able to see much stronger performances from Spurs in the coming season. West Ham United under David Moyes have had a bit of a roller coaster ride. If we were talking about before the break, before the pandemic, I would probably have said that you need to strip apart that West Ham team, give them a good makeover, a good little pampering. But since the return, they've actually been very good. Jarrod Bowen has shown that he's a classy player. Felipe Anderson likely to get offloaded. Antonio, the main man up front. What versatility he has. I mean, a few seasons ago, the guy was playing at right back. Now the main man up front, banging in the goals, scoring the Premier League's first ever 4 goals. The Quadrati, as it's been dubbed. So, where the West Ham need to improve, they could do with a bit of reinforcement in the midfield. However, that left back spot could really do with a bit of reinforcing, and they should look no further than the recently relegated Norwich's Jamal Lewis. Obviously, Norwich's defence hasn't been very good throughout the season, but that's mainly due to the centre-backs. I mean, Jamal Lewis and Max Aarons have been very good throughout the season. Obviously, they could do with a bit of developing, but I think a young left-back for West Ham United could be very, very good to purchase there. Wolverhampton Wanderers, what a season they have had, pushing for the European places and unfortunately not being able to get them. For Wolves, there's not too much to actually improve in that side. They've been very, very good. However, they don't have much depth. So although Raúl Jiménez has been incredible throughout the season, if they added a bit more depth in that sort of striking position, they could really push on and to become one of the top teams in the league, really. Because with Adama Traore coming off the bench, the likes of Diogo Jota coming in there as well as a decent replacement. But if they had a really solid replacement in the likes of Torino's Belotti, they could really push on and become a top side, as we have seen Jimenez tire out quite a few times this season and not really bring in the performances that you'd expect from him week in and week out because of their European dedication as well. So if they were to improve or just back up another striking option, we could really see Wolves push on and even potentially go for a top 4 spot. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you in the next one.